There's no question our ability to hold a majority was historic. Traditionally, whatever party is in the White House has a difficult time in the midterm. Well, certainly Senate races are different depending on the state that you live in, and it's really incredibly important for candidates and incumbents to talk about issues that people in that state care about and those that they are most concerned about. When we are dealing with issues like inflation and rising cost, it was Democrats that voted to, for example, allow Medicare to negotiate with drug companies. And what that did is bring down the cost of prescription drugs. And it's important to remember on that incredibly important piece of legislation, not one Republican voted for it. When it came down to a choice between lowering prescription drugs for everyday Americans and standing up for the big drug companies and pharmaceuticals, it was clear. Democrats were for everyday people, and Republicans continue to stand up for the big drug companies. The other key issue was dealing with the existential threat of climate change. And we passed, as Democrats, in the Inflation Reduction Act, the most significant investment in history to move towards renewable energy, bring down our carbon footprint, to deal with climate change. And as we were voting to attack the problem of climate change, not one Republican voted for that bill. So clearly, our young voters all across America understood who understands that climate change is an important issue and who's actually trying to deal with the issue. And the Republican candidates we were running against were very extreme on issues. And take the abortion example. We had Republican candidates who were extreme on that position, believe there should be no exceptions for rape, for incest, for the health of the mother, and it's sometimes the life of the mother. That's simply not acceptable to the majority of the American people. And folks knew that their vote was going to matter. It was going to make a difference. And they turned out in numbers to allow us to hold the Senate majority. And on December 6th, do everything we can to expand that number by one. Well, certainly having more is always better, but one is really critically important to have that extra senator. You know, when you think about having the majority, 50-50 is not really a majority, it's equal. The reason it is a majority is because we have, thank goodness, we have Vice President Kamala Harris that will break the tie, but not necessarily can all 50 senators, even if they're Democrats, don't necessarily agree on every issue. So there may be one senator who has a strong opinion about an issue, but it's different from the other senators. I'm a believer that one senator shouldn't stop us from being able to move forward on issues that are critically important. So if we want to take up climate change legislation, we can get it to the floor and get a vote a whole lot quicker because Republicans will drag their feet. They'll use all sorts of procedural mechanisms to prevent us from even voting. When you have a runoff election, it's even harder to get people to get turnout than a midterm. And a lot of people may not even know there's a special election. That's not something people are used to doing. So our turnout operation is critical. We have volunteers on the ground who are passionate, who are knocking doors, they're making calls, they're letting folks know there's an election on December 6th. They've got to get out and make a difference. It's the same playbook we used back in 2020 when we were able to win 2 seats in Georgia. So we have the playbook. We just got to blow the dust off of it, open it up, and execute it again. And when we do, we will win.